The DVR2 is a Plate 250, EMT Plate 250 emulation derived from the absolutely classic EMT 250 plate that's been used in recording studios all over the world, you know, for 20, 30 years. It's got that classic rich, warm sound, and that's what's really been captured with this plugin. It allows us to get really kind of warm, saturated, vintage reverb type sounds, which work perfectly on vocals and guitars and all sorts of other instruments. So I'm just going to play you an example now from a track that I've been working on for a new artist called John Burge, and I'll show you how we've used the DVR2 to really effective use on the acoustic guitars and the vocal. So let's just have a little look at the track. I've just got a backing track in here for the purposes of this, with the vocal bounced out and the guitars. Now let's have a listen to the vocal on its own without the DVR2, and you can hear obviously that it's a dry vocal. Let's turn off the DVR2. Okay.
See in your eyes,
Let's listen to the vocal on its own.
the mirror of my life, your love is a gift.
Just a kind of standard raw vocal that's just had a bit of compression added. And let's have a listen to the acoustic guitar tracks. We've got 12 string and 6 string all kind of merged together here. Again, as you can hear, totally dry without anything on them. Now the DVR2 really allows you to glue those kind of sounds into a mix and give them a real warmth and presence that you can't get with other types of reverb, whether it be convolution reverbs or perhaps other specific reverb types like source reverbs. The DVR2 really gives you that vintage warmth. So let's hear the DVR2 working on the guitar track. So as I said, this is the guitar track dry. Now let's put the DVR2 on. You can suddenly hear that the DVR2 gives it a real presence. Now let's look at the actual plugin itself. We've got very simple parameters to work with for the DVR2, which is what makes it great. We've got this section at the top, which you choose your reverb pre-delay, your decay, the multiplier for the high and low decay. And then we've got this section here, which allows for vintage modulation to give it kind of a modulated kind of chorusy effect on the tail. We've got the input transformer, trim, low frequency, and low res buttons here, which all add up to give it a kind of more vintage flavor, so you can switch those in or out. We've got the vintage reset button. Now when we press that, it actually sets the reverb up to its natural state as an EMT 250 plate would have probably been at the time. And then at the bottom we've got our levels section, input level, wet level and dry level. Now, as I've said, it's incredibly versatile in terms of for vocals or guitars or solo instruments or drums even. But the great thing is that there's very few parameters to work with, so it's very quick to get the sound you want. So let's have a little listen to it now again. We can make it shorter, obviously. Nice and long. Really big. We've got the modulation section down here. Now I've got it on 100% to give it that really chorusy sound. Turn that off. Becomes a little bit more thin and transparent. And then we've got the vintage section, which I talked about in the middle here, and the vintage reset button. Now if we put that on, it immediately sets it up, as I said, an EMT plate probably would have been from the factory. Okay, so now let's hear how these things really work in our mix. So let me play the mix dry with the vocal and guitar without the reverb, and then let's hear how they really glue into the mix once we use the reverb as part of that. So let's just call up the reverb again as we had it. Just guitars, okay. Now you can see here we've got both of them open. We've got the front end for the vocal at the bottom here, and at the top here we've got the one for the guitar. So let's have a listen to some of the track without them and then with them on. This track's called Just Like We Dreamed Of. So here we go. This is without. And you'll hear that they kind of really stick out of the mix.
See in your eyes the mirror of my life. Your love is a gift.
Vocals not sitting into the mix. And guitars, if we move forward. Again, the guitars just kind of sitting proud on top of the mix itself. Now let's have a listen with them on. Okay, so let's put them on.
See in your eyes the mirror of my life. Your love is a gift.
There you go.
Soothing of my night.
Immediately the vocal feels a real part of the track. You really feel it kind of bedded in. And it's a lovely rich sound. Now let's hear the guitars coming in. Immediately everything feels really glued and kind of part of the backing track.
Just like we dreamed of.
So an incredibly useful plugin to have, and as I've said, I use it a lot on all the productions I'm doing, and it's probably one of the best play emulations out there on any type of platform. So it's really a worthwhile addition to the PowerCore 6000. Okay, now I'm going to show you the DVR2 on another track that I'm working on for the artist John Burge. This track's not a ballad, it's kind of like a trashy pop rock track, kind of in a kind of Killers type of style. Now I've got it on the guitars, and the guitars on this are very kind of sort of upfront, ballsy, kind of overdriven guitars that are tracked up. And I'm going to show you the guitars dry, and then I'm going to show you the guitars with the DVR2 and how that works within the mix. So let's have a little listen to the guitars on their own. As you can see here, I've brought up the GUI for the DVR2 that's on the guitars on this track, which is called She Should Be With Me. And let's have a listen to the track, the guitar track, without the DVR2. As you can hear, a very dry guitar type sound. Now, let's put it back on now. Now you can hear suddenly it's got a kind of real warmth and presence. So let's hear that in the context of this mix. So let's play that track now with the full track and the guitars without the DVR2 on, so you can kind of hear again how the guitars kind of sit proud of the mix and don't kind of gel into the mix. And then we'll put the DVR2 on to show you how it really kind of glues the sound together. Here we go, so here come the guitars now. Okay, it's kind of sitting right on top of it. Now let's put the DVR2 on. Suddenly they feel part of the track and they've got a real kind of excitement of their own. So that's the DVR2. Just to recap, it's a vintage EMT 250 plate emulation, which originally came from the System 6000, which has now obviously been ported to the PowerCore 6000. And you love this reverb for kind of that vintage warmth sound that you get on all the old kind of records. It really gives you that kind of warm vibe, which helps to glue sounds like guitars and vocals into a mix.